This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. Today, we're going to continue our deep dive into the subject of building your team for maximum value growth. And actually, someone asked me, they said, Justin, value growth, do you mean like sales value? So yeah, let me just pause there real quick in this episode and kind of address that. Whenever I'm talking about value, I'm talking about the value of your company, which ultimately can interpret into the sales price of your company. So we're really focusing on building the team for the maximum sales price. You can substitute value growth with sales price. Today's episode is titled How to Affect Cultural Change. So in the last few episodes, we've been dealing with culture, specifically in the team aspect of your business. And I guess last episode, we focused on the 3 areas to focus on change. But today I want to talk about how are we going to actually affect the change of culture in our businesses. I was talking with a business owner who is an avid listener of the podcast. I get lots of text messages on my cell phone from friends who listen to the podcast. I get lots of people on social media who will send me private messages saying, Justin, I heard this episode. Could you further explain X? Could you further explain Y? I received a couple of emails. Well, in this particular one, the business owner said, man, Justin, I'm really looking forward to this culture topics that you introduced a couple of weeks and how you change the culture of a business. And in my inquisitive nature, I said, well, why is that? They said, the culture of our business is not where we would like it. And they went on to tell me some things, which was interesting. And I said, well, we want to pay attention to actually how you're going to affect cultural change. There's 4 points that we can easily talk about. Changing the culture of a company can be very hard, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. Today, I want to give you those 4 points that'll help you in changing the culture of your company. And then I want to give you a specific case study on a company that we have worked with and show you the net result and the impact of changing the culture of your company. So how do we change the culture of our company? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to commit to it. We're going to commit to it. There's lots of things we've talked about in the past about the effects of writing things down, the effects of telling a friend, the effects of making a resolution. I'm not talking about a New Year's resolution where you're going to try to lose weight, diet, and exercise because no one holds up in that. I'm talking about setting a goal up and getting the entire team involved, letting the team knows what you're going to do, letting them know why you're going to do it. You're going to commit to the process. Sounds easy. Yeah, it sounds easy. Sometimes it can be difficult. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to measure. We're going to do an assessment. Now, I talked about the Barrett assessment. So the Barrett assessment is one tool. I like that tool. I've used that personally. I've used it in case studies. I've used it with real clients. You may want to have somebody help you with that. There's a list of people who can help you with the Barrett assessment, interpreting it. I'm one of those people who can help you with that, but you're going to measure. You're going to measure where your current culture is. You're going to measure where you want to be, give some direction on where you're at and where you're falling short at. Where are you falling short? Is it on the individual level? Is it on the managerial level? Is it on the company level? On those 3 areas that we talked about that we have to focus for cultural change. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to commit to change. Second thing you're going to do is you're going to measure. It sounds a lot like getting in shape, right? We're going to get in shape. We're going to commit to getting in shape. Then we're going to measure where we're currently at. What do you weigh right now? The third thing you're going to do is you're going to define. You're going to say exactly what you're going to do. You're going to define it. You're going to give you purpose. Why are you trying to achieve this? Well, I want to get in shape so I can live longer. I want to get in shape so I can run a half Ironman. I want to get in shape so I can climb to the top of the mountain in Idaho. Whatever the reason for getting in shape, you have to define it. Same thing in changing the culture of your company. You have to define why you're going to do this. Now, in this particular venue or the particular series that we're in, the reason why we're getting in shape is to drive the value of our company up, so that we can have a larger sales price in the future. That's the reason. Then ultimately, you're going to align your company. You're going to align the team. You're going to get buy-in and participation from your team. I'm going to tell you, go back into our leadership series that we did with the various sections of leadership. And again, there's books written on leadership. I just hit a couple of key points that I think are valuable to small business owners. But you're going to align. You're going to work on that leadership skill and align your team together. That's it. That's as easy as it is. How are you going to affect cultural change? You're going to commit to the process. You're going to measure it. You're going to define it, and you're going to align it. That's no different than Diet and exercise is no different than saying it's January 1st. I have a New Year's resolution to lose weight. Great. I currently weigh 200 and how much do I weigh? 212 pounds, maybe 11 pounds today. I don't know. I want to drop down to 200 pounds. Okay. That's my goal. I'm going to drop down 200 pounds. Why am I doing that? So I can climb to the top of the mountain in Idaho without dying again, like I did a couple months ago. All right. Now, what do I have to do? Well, I have to change my lifestyle. I have to get up earlier. I have to go exercise. I have to change my eating habits. I'm going to align my lifestyle with my goal. It's the same thing in changing the culture of your company. So it's easy to talk about. It's hard to do. But those individuals who do actually work on cultural change, it does make a difference. Not only does it make a difference in the sales price or the value of your company, but it also helps in the day-to-day actually income. So I have a company that I've been working with, and this company initially, it was having some problems. It had an 18% entropy issue. We talked about anything north of 40%, you're in danger zone. Well, this company, it was okay. Not quite 40% entropy or dysfunction involved. It had 18%. So we go back 3 years and we measure and we say, okay, the entropy of the company is 18%. The accounts receivable, which is one of the measures that this particular business owner want to track, the accounts receivable were at 8.5% of gross revenue. So AR was at 8.5% of gross revenue. And that's not too good in this style of business, but nonetheless it was. The revenue after the first year, so we did the assessment, we looked at the goal, we want to increase our accounts receivable, and we began committing, measuring, defining, and aligning the values of the company. And the revenue increased year one by 12%. It was a major revenue increase. Now, can we attribute all 12% of that to the value or cultural value change? No. Market has something to do with it. The bigger picture on what we were working on holistically with this client had some effect. But the net operating income went up by 5.1%. So we drove revenue up by 12%, and then we had an NOI, net operating income, increased by 5.1%. That was year one. Well, as we worked on this function, this entropy inside the culture, the next year it dropped from 18% down to 12%. So we made a nice 6-point gain in the entropy of the company, and the accounts receivable dropped from 8.5 down to 5.7. That was a major increase. In fact, it put this particular company in the top quartile of their particular industry. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The revenue only increased in the following year by 6.1%. So it wasn't a major revenue increase, but the net operating income reached an 11.3% gain. An 11.3% gain. It was amazing to watch. Follow up last year. Last year, the entropy now was measured at 9%. We cut the dysfunction of the business in half. And the accounts receivable now hit a low of 5.4%. They basically made $88,000 in addition savings in their accounts receivable. $88,000 of the prior year. Their net operating income increased to 14.9%. 14.9% NOI. In this particular company, that was a $4.7 million effect. $4.7 million effect. So we drove the dysfunction of the culture down. And in driving the dysfunction of the culture down, just committing, measuring, defining, and aligning, just doing those things, we drove the culture of the company, the dysfunction down, while at the same time driving the revenue up in excess of over, 12 plus 6 plus 8. We drove the company up 27% and some change, positive revenue, and the net operating income increased almost to 15% above where it originally started. It was amazing to watch. Now you say, Justin, is that all because of cultural change? No, like I mentioned earlier, it's not all because of cultural change. It's the bigger pile of business management, business consulting. But nonetheless, if they had not effectively dealt with the culture of the company and went through the process of committing, measuring, defining, and aligning where they want to be and the problems they're having now, then I dare say that they would not have had a 14.9% increase in their net operating income last year. Now, I got to give a disclaimer here. These results are this of the particular company in a particular time period and in a particular market. This is an example of a client, but these results I'm talking about are not promised. If you say, hey, Justin said if you do this, you're going to receive these results. No, I'm not saying that. In fact, your results could be better or worse than this. It'll depend on you, your team, your time period, and tons of other variables that come to play.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
What was interesting to me is that if you did a crossover point, if you did a declining line of entropy, it dropped 50%, from 18% down to 9%, where the net operating income increased from 5.1% to 14.9%. So there was a crossover point. Actually, the crossover point didn't take place until about 2.5 years into the process. So I asked myself the question with this business owner. I said, why did you not quit? Why did you not quit? He said, because of the value, because of the goal that I have, because I was trying to align, because I knew what I want to achieve, and he gave lots of different scenarios. But to me, I'm always interested in the crossover point. We look at crossover points, a number of things. We look at marketing. If I market with these dollars, how long will it take for me to hit my return? And Social Security illustrations. At what point should we begin taking Social Security as business owners? I look at it from payroll. At what point should we increase or decrease our payroll, W-2 earnings from the company versus dividends as business owners? Those are crossover points. In this particular case, it took 2.5 years almost before the business owner saw the net effect of their training and their commitment to changing the culture of the company. But man, when it crossed big time. It moved it, like I said, net operating income from 5.1 to 14.9. And we also watched the entropy or the dysfunction of the company drop in half. So that led me to questions, thinking with this business owner, and I do this a lot with business owners, with clients of mine. We began talking. I said, why is it, do you think, that people in your industry, in this particular industry, why is it you think that people don't follow through with affecting cultural change? You know, I could actually equate it to the weight loss industry, like I was using an example. Why is it that people get all gung-ho January 1st on their New Year commitment, and come February, the gyms are empty? Well, we came up with a couple of different scenarios. Now, I'm not saying this is a holistic list on why cultural values will not change from reducing the entropy of the company. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that this is the reason why that I'm still 10 pounds heavier than I should be. I can tell you the reason for that. It's called pizza. Oh my goodness, pizza. In fact, I just heard that Little Caesars has a thin crust pizza. Lord help me. I'm going to have one of those this weekend. So I can tell you why I'm 10 pounds overweight. Nonetheless, here are some things that we came up with. The first one we came up with was lack of leadership. You know, we mentioned earlier that everything rises and falls on leadership. I mentioned that in several episodes, and it's one of my favorite quotes by John Maxwell. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So one of the key roadblocks, one of the key distractions, I call them roadblocks. I've often used the term destination from here to there. One of the key roadblocks in changing the culture of the company is you. You're the business owner. You're the leader. You get too busy. You don't lead. You let the team lead. And it's got to change. Now, am I telling you to be a dictator? No. Go back to our leadership example and the leadership series that we dealt with. I'm not telling you to be a dictator. I'm telling you to lead. People want leaders. People want leaders. I want leaders. I want strong leaders in my life to impact me to be better. We all want leaders. So one of the key roadblocks is failure to leadership. Another one is that you're just too vague. You're not clear on what you're trying to accomplish in your business. Or maybe you're trying to accomplish too many things at once. Maybe it's too many things at once. Maybe you're trying to affect too much change at one time. Maybe you're too vague. Maybe you're too many things at one time. Maybe it's you have such a short-term vision that you can't see the long-term benefit. Think about it. 2.5 years, 30 months? 30 months before you actually see a crossover point? Friends, I know too many people give up after 2 weeks. This business owner, 30 months. My goodness, you ought to see the valuation on this company, how fast the factor, as we talked about in our valuation area, increased because of the changing the culture. Maybe it is that you're not getting feedback from your team. Maybe it's you're not asking them how you're affecting the cultural change. One of my key areas, I think, is in addition to lack of leadership, I think it's because we lose focus. We lose focus. I mentioned that in my series when I often talk about Michael Phelps. I don't know the guy personally. I think it's cool because I like to swim and I was interested to see how fast he was. But the interesting thing about Michael Phelps that we all can all relate to is he had a coach. He had a coach. He had somebody who was accountable, that he was accountable to. Who are you accountable to? Business owner, if you're accountable to yourself, you're not going to affect cultural change. Heck, you're not going to do much more than your brain or your body will allow you to do, because we're putting out fires with the little water pistol many times. Who are you accountable to? I heard someone today, they said, Justin, I want to hire you because you have a gentle way of holding people accountable, according to the way I've heard on the podcast. I said, that's interesting. I've never heard that before. Who are you accountable to? And I'm talking about a buddy. I'm talking about somebody who you're paying that you respect enough that you're going to listen to. Maybe one of the roadblocks to your cultural change has to do with your systems. You're hiring poorly. You have lack of leadership development. You have no strategy. These are the things that came up with me and the business owner that we did this case study on. Maybe you could identify some other roadblocks to yours specifically. My point is that roadblocks exist. Roadblocks exist. Friends, if you're going to change the culture of your company, if you're going to change the culture of the company, you have to commit to cultural change. You have to measure, you have to define it, and you have to align your team. And the benefits, the benefits are worth it. You will, I don't use that often, but you will drive the value of your company up if you can get the culture of your company working properly towards your goals. You can drive the value up. This is one of those intangibles that brings a lot of value. And with that, I want to wrap this particular short episode up. Hey, I've got lots of questions coming in from social media. Check it out. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I think we have a Pinterest going out now. We've got YouTube. I've been doing Ask Justin questions. I've got some questions I've got to answer this week on the QBI, the Qualified Business Income Deduction, and how it works for business owners. So if you have a question, reach out to me on social media, or maybe you want to do like someone did just today and they hit me at justin@financiallysimple.com. If you like the podcast, do me a favor, leave us a review. We've got a couple of reviews recently, and it sure helps in the rankings. That's the way iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and these companies will allow the show to be heard by other listeners just like you. And so just as a favor to me, as something that you can help share this information with other business owners. Look, guys, business owners, we're the heartbeat. They're the backbone of our country. We're the backbone. I want to make businesses as strong and healthy as possible. I want a country that is robust and healthy and a national leader. I'm not saying we're not, but man, we can certainly help others. And I'm just doing my small part. Like I say every week, guys, life is hard, life is good, and life can be frustrating. Money does not have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Y'all go out and make it a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.